Hello and welcome to the Culture Cave. We are here with a news story that's just broke. There's been the first image released of the new Lord of the Rings. Well, Konrad, are you excited for it?
Lord of the Rings is here, and we're gonna watch the series. Yes, I'm excited about Lord of the Rings.
I mean, if they have the same music, I will watch every episode of this when it is released.
I suspect they won't, purely because that music carries a lot of emotional baggage with it, where I'm just like, you're writing some checks here. If you're going to use the Peter Jackson score, the Hobbit did not cash, and I expect big things. But I mean, the image, we've literally seen a solitary image, but that looks like Middle Earth to me. That looks like a human city in Middle Earth.
It does. It has an interesting light going on, like the modern fantasy sort of, very bright light in the distance makes everything a little sun dappled. So, what are you thinking? First of all, in terms of the cinematography in this image?
Oh, well, I mean, when you think Lord of the Rings, you think sweeping helicopter shots of vistas in New Zealand, and I don't know if this is...
I think Andy Serkis going down the river in a white suit. That's what I think.
Yeah, that as well. Obviously, that's the second thing that everyone thinks about. But I don't know if this is being filmed in New Zealand, but they have certainly captured the kind of breathtaking landscape of the movies. Which I'm going to be insufferable. I'm going to always compare these to the movies, but you kind of have to.
You have to.
I think the architecture of this presumably human city, it looks very much like Minas Tirith, but I actually think it. We briefly discussed this beforehand, but I think it might be one of the cities in Mordor. I've not read this or the whole of the Silmarillion, and it's been a long time since I've read Lord of the Rings. But that looks given it's set like, I don't exactly know how far, but it's set like a couple of thousand years, I think, before Lord of the Rings. I think this might be Mordor before Sauron messed it up.
If it is Minas Tirith, they're going with a different design. So I think I may be leaning towards what you are as well. Having said that, we can talk about the image all day. What I want to ask you, Konrad, is what do you think about the decision to go the Jumanji route? This is not Lord of the Rings. It's kind of like a prequel to Lord of the Rings. Jumanji with The Rock was a sequel to the original Jumanji, but they called it Jumanji anyway. What do you think about this being called Lord of the Rings? What the hell's that about?
Well, I guess so. The Lord of the Rings is Sauron, I think, right? Because he's the master.
It's a trilogy of books, Konrad.
No, but like Sauron is the actual Lord of the Rings because he's he creates the one ring to dominate all other rings of power. So
yeah.
I guess this is if this features Sauron in some way, then it can still technically get away with being called Lord of the Rings. I think that's my feeling.
No, the thing is, I'm against it. I'm going to be honest with you. Do you think that there is someone out there, if this was called Sauron, for example, or if you called it like...
They go like the Maleficent route, and it's let's reimagine the origin story of Sauron. Maybe he's a little misunderstood.
Yeah, and they'll bring in a whole load of new like fantastical creatures to really help you empathize with the stuff. Like who is Sauron?
He's got one gargoyle played by Jason Sudeikis and another one played by Seth Rogen, and boy howdy do they get into some scrapes.
Yeah, like the question is Sauron a true Disney princess? Maybe he is. Maybe he is.
We can only hope.
Hopefully. Yeah, but I will say, like, to be honest with you, I'm against it being called The Lord of the Rings. I don't think there's anyone in the world who would have not watched this if it was called Mordor, who is going to watch it because it's The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty obvious. You see one image of this, like, oh, that's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, exactly. So, it is what it is. The question is Sir Ian McKellen showing up in this?
Well, actually, I'll answer your question with another question. That was going to be, how much work will they have to do to Orlando Bloom's face to de-age him so that he can appear in this as well? Because he's going to be a young elf, is maybe even a child. I can't remember how long elves in Lord of the Rings live.
So do you feel this is like sort of like the sequel trilogy in Star Wars? Like the original trilogy is Lord of the Rings. Then you got The Hobbit, which is kind of like the prequels. And now you've got the sequel trilogy, which is going to be, obviously, as we know, very well received and absolutely no arguments on the internet about it.
Yeah, I look forward to Rian Johnson's confusing but ambitious middle chapter that makes everyone hate him.
Yeah, but then he'll go on to do a great, whodunit film. So it's all.
Yes,
good.
He'll remind everyone that actually he's a really good director, and maybe we should have trusted him more than J.J. Abrams.
Exactly. All right, guys, that's the Lord of the Rings image. I think this is probably a TV show that Konrad and I are both going to be interested in. So we'll sort of try and keep you updated about what's going on about it and stuff like that. We'll have a chat about things when they come out. And apart from that, could you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? And could you please like the video, because that does help, that sort of stuff. It's a bit cheesy, but it does help. Thanks very much, guys, and we will both see you later.
Goodbye. Lord of the Rings is here, and we're gonna watch a series.